How can we reach out to our child? How can we explain to them that it's important to be responsible?
There's something wrong with this responsibility. They want something from me.
Are you a responsible person or an irresponsible one?
Why are you so responsible? How is it even possible to do anything with you?
This is the main criterion for most people when choosing a partner.
Did they make the right choice? Did they make the wrong choice?
I must become self-reliant, right? That material responsibility. I must make money for my life myself.
Just look at your kids now. How many years? 5, 6 years? Is that all you're ready to give them?
A mathematical model of climate catastrophe progression was presented.
These are the last times that we were spoken about.
We all have one problem: to survive.
Friends, no matter how hard it is now, together we can do it.
Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Good day, dear friends. Hello, Diana.
Greetings.
Guys, in short, our last episode was dedicated to such a topic as responsibility, and we looked at it, well, we can say from different angles. That is, how people come to responsibility, what people think falls under responsibility, how they act based on the fact if they have taken responsibility or if they haven't taken responsibility. And so, in the end, we finished on a very interesting moment. What then, in reality, is such a concept as the true responsibility? Diana, if you remember, we agreed to continue our discussion on this topic. Well then, let's happily continue our conversation today.
I will continue this topic with pleasure because it's not just interesting, it's very important. And unfortunately today the importance of this topic is so distorted, and I would say it's missing. Thus, it's really worth talking about this, and it's very important to figure this out. What is the responsibility? Are you a responsible person or an irresponsible one? It's just a question sentence, right? It sounds actually from childhood. What kind of irresponsible child is that? And then throughout life, people often hear that you are simply an irresponsible person. You can be counted on. You are no good to deal with. And thus, for most people, responsibility is associated with being relevant, with being needed. Are you a responsible person? That's almost the main question when employing someone. He is a responsible person, you can count on him. This is the main criterion for most people when choosing a partner. I mean, it's an important quality. But you know what's interesting? On the one hand, everyone wants to be responsible. Everyone wants to be needed, to be relevant. And on the other hand, if you look at what society we live in, it seems that people have no responsibility at all, because there is just chaos and nightmare in society as a whole, simply an outrage. It's just impossible to imagine such an irresponsible attitude towards human life. What's the reason? And this is what I want to figure out.
You know, it's a good question and a good point about how really so irresponsible we as humanity and every person as a unit of this society are. Treat not just many things, but first and foremost our life. I understand what are you talking about, and you know, just looking at my life, I don't know, maybe it would sound like an excuse, because very often those scenarios that you're talking about, when you're asked the question, back in your childhood. Well, why are you so irresponsible? How is it even possible to do anything with you if you can't even clean your room? If you basically can't keep up with your study routine, and so on and so forth, meaning what we are encountering in our life. And from that moment on, you understand, just on some other non-logical level, that there's something wrong with this responsibility. They want something from me, but it's something that I don't really want. I don't understand why. Well, I mean, okay, there are some basic things to keep order, to exist in some kind of household, to perform my functional duties of study, work, that is, as a partner in a relationship, as a parent, as a professional, and so on, and things like that. But every time this notion of responsibility is called out to us, you realize that something is wrong with it. They call me somewhere, they poke something at me, but I can't figure out what I'm supposed to do. And even, I remember from myself, okay, you somehow get together for a period of time, you're enough for 2 or 3 weeks to be super responsible, as your family asks of you there, that social group that you're in, your work team asks of you, and then it all comes back to nothing again somehow. And all those responsible moments about routines, about not forgetting your functional duties, they fade into the background. But this moment that you just said, it stays, the responsibility for life. Why do we think about how our socks are folded, whether or not our children's undies and shirts are ironed, but we don't think about our lives? Why do you think about the importance of getting to a doctor's appointment or some business meeting on time? But we don't think about our life, and we don't think about the lives of our loved ones. We don't think about the lives of our neighbors. We don't think about people's lives in general. Here's responsibility for us, it's tied back to some material aspects. And we don't go beyond that.
Yes, you're right, because if we talk about responsibility as today's society suggests people perceive it, then first of all it will be material responsibility, because in this consumer society today every person, his existence is sort of related to survival, and that is why a responsible person is the one who has a permanent job. A responsible person is the one who is able to sort of reasonably distribute his earnings. And a responsible person is certainly the one who fulfills his obligations, as you've said, and preferably not just fulfills them, but on time and of high quality. But look at another interesting point. You made a very good point that we punish our children when something is done or not done. We punish our children for being rude to us, right? But meanwhile, we allow children to be raped and shot in schools. Meanwhile, we support laws that allow state leaders to wage wars, finding excuses for that. So what does it turn out to be? They can't be rude, but they can be killed. We punish our children for not doing their homework. That is your area of responsibility. You have to finally understand that. Meanwhile, for thousands of years, there has been hunger, violence, drug addiction, alcoholism, and crime in society. And there are plenty of organizations that employ a huge number of people with high salaries, whose functional responsibilities include addressing these issues. It turns out that kids who don't do their homework for free in their area of responsibility are irresponsible, and adult men and women who don't perform their functional duties for very decent salaries are responsible. You see, this absurdity, we all see it, and most importantly, our children see it, and they understand it too. And when we try to appeal to their responsibility, at almost every consultation, every parent asks the same question: how can we reach out to our children? How can we explain to them that it is important to be responsible? Only by your own example. Only by your own example. After all, our children see everything and understand everything, and they understand much more than we suppose. That is what we need to think about.
Or maybe you knocked on the wrong door.
You know, this paradox, it's not just a paradox, it's absurd. We work from morning till night so that our children can live well in a society of wars, violence, hunger, slavery. Tell me, can a slave be happy? Can a slave live well? After all, in today's society, a huge number of children are used in slave labor, used for sexual slavery. Children are stripped for their organs. Now I just have these numbers of terrible statistics flashing in my head. Every year, more than 5 million little children under the age of 5 die of infectious diseases just because kids don't have access to clean drinking water. And the climate, we have 5 or 6 years left, more or less stable 5 or 6 years, when we can find solutions to protect all people from climate catastrophe. If we don't find solutions now, there will just be no humanity. If you don't believe me, listen to the report that was presented at a private meeting of the Rotary Club. It was such a serious and shocking information that the decision was made to release it immediately so that everyone on the planet could know what awaits them. So, if we talk particularly about parental responsibility, the first thing we need to start with is to ensure a safe life for our children, simply because we want them to grow up. That's where our responsibility starts today. That responsibility that you've mentioned, Sasha, the responsibility for life, first and foremost. And we have forgotten about it. And afterwards, we will think about how we can make our children happy. Though, in fact, the solution we have today solves these issues of security and a happy future for our children all at once. I'm talking now about the Creative Society project. That is what I would like to talk about. That's how we need to look at our responsibility today.
Thank you for bringing up the topic of our today's in another way. It's hard to say, and really the information that was announced in the Rotary report, it's sobering, and it gives you such a sharp, strong kick out of the illusion of the life, the illusion of the worries that you were in. I remember when I received this information, because it's one thing to hear it, and it's another thing to realize it. Guys, 5 or 6 years is nothing. It's 5 or 6 years. You just look at your kids now. How old are they? A year, 2, 3, okay, 10, 15. Is that it? Well, 5 or 6 years is all you're willing to give them? I understand now. Now you're going to say, what's that got to do with me? What can I do? That's exactly the kind of responsibility. Your personal responsibility for your life, for the lives of your loved ones. Okay, I understand. Each of us can calmly say, yeah, I will do anything for the sake of my kids. Do it for them and do it for yourself. If you love your kids, prove it with your actions. Don't choose the best school for them now, because in 5 or 6 years he just might not graduate from that school. Don't look for the best kindergarten and the best teachers, because he just might not finish that kindergarten in 5 or 6 years. Your child, and you won't have time to enjoy a normal, good, happy life in his company. He will simply die in your arms, at worst. At best, you will die before he does. I'm sorry for being rude, but prove to yourself, prove to your kids that you love them. Take responsibility for your future, for our future together. Don't be discouraged. Don't just brush it off. Don't let someone else do it. Rotary is a big organization. They will solve everything. They won't solve it without us. No president, no country, no international organization will tackle it without us. And it's important to understand that. And it's our responsibility. If you love them, I say it again, prove it. Prove it. Otherwise, it all simply, turns into prolonged suicide on one side and prolonged murder, because you heard it and you know it. And then the choice is yours. Either you take responsibility or you pass it on to others. But today we have the experience of what happens when you shift responsibility to others. Nothing good. Nothing good.
Sasha, I understand that now the people who will be listening, they won't quite get our outrage. These two are sitting being indignant. What 5 or 6 years, guys? What are you talking about at all? Sure. Yes, for sure. Why are we referring to this Rotary report? And there is a huge forum being prepared now, an international online forum, where this data will be presented in an even more expanded, shall we say, version. But the whole point is that in this report, the facts from the scientists were presented. I mean, it is a completely science-based report, which, in addition, presented a mathematical model of the climate catastrophe progression. So these aren't numbers taken out of nowhere. Honestly, I can tell you that just like any other person, I was shocked. So few. Well, it does sound like a verdict, but we need to understand it. As a doctor, I know, whatever the situation is, you have to accept the facts and understand what to do with them. So this is not just some unsubstantiated statement of two people who heard or read something somewhere. No, this is the most important information for every person today. And I can tell you that when I heard this report, honestly, it was... I don't even know what the right word would be. Wild and strange to hear that people still have some other problems. You guys don't have any problems at all. Just listen to this report and you'll realize that we all have one problem: to survive. And there is a clear deadline for that, 5 to 6 years, taking into account our active actions. I will return to the responsibility of parents, because most of the population of the world is parents. Either their children are adults or small children. We are almost all parents, or people who plan to be parents. The first thing we need to do is to protect life, our life, and the life of our children. That is the first and foremost responsibility of any person, of any parent. And then, it's interesting, as you just said, that we choose, parents choose the best schools for their children, the best kindergartens, the best studios, and then the best institutions, and so on and so forth. I have the question, are you happy? And if not, Why do you continue to offer your children those models that have not made you happy? Those models of happiness, those models of behavior. For 6,000 years, humanity has been in slavery. For 6,000 years, we have been at war. For 6,000 years, everybody's life on this planet has been under constant threat. And you know what the worst part is? That people have resigned themselves to the fact that life and suffering are the same thing, but being in a joy and in love is not normal. Maybe it's time to change this model. To change just the very approach to understanding what responsibility is, real responsibility.
And what we really can be responsible for in the first place.
Be responsible for, right. You know, there is a very common expression, take responsibility for your life. And what does that really mean? What does it mean to take responsibility for your life? I can say that the responsibility of any person, just like any action of a person, begins with the question, who am I? Whom am I that one will take responsibility? Whose function is responsibility anyway? How does it work for us? That's what we need to be sorted out. And that's what I would call a responsible approach to understanding the responsibility. Because if we talk about taking responsibility for our life, what's the first thing that comes to mind? I must become self-reliant, right? That material responsibility. I must make money for my life myself. I must learn to make my own decisions. And very few people have the understanding that I myself will be responsible for these decisions. So, in fact, we are offered to take care of the body, but it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. Most of the people today think that I'm the body and my life is existence, this temporary existence in this body. And what have we come to? To a complete devaluation of human life and a mass shifting of responsibility for one's life to someone else. So we still need to figure out who is a human and what is his real responsibility. Look, on the one hand, when I realize that I'm the body, which is temporarily existing, and the whole meaning of my life is to provide this body with some kind of comfortable existence. Well, preferably to make it last longer, right? Well, and it's necessary to earn some significance so that I will be remembered even after my death. And on the other hand, if I know that a human is, first of all, a spiritual being, a potentially immortal being, that everyone has a chance to gain life, a real life, the one that never ends. Look how everything changes immediately. It's a completely different understanding of yourself, of the meaning of your life. And then you understand that your temporary existence in this body here is only a springboard to real life. That's when you understand what your real responsibility is. True responsibility of a human is to realize that one chance that every person has, the chance to gain life. And that is the true responsibility of each person. And the truth is that this is the true meaning of human life and the true responsibility for each person.
Once in one of his programs, Igor Mikhailovich said that all people come into this world with one goal, to attain life. And the primary, basic, real responsibility is just the same to attain this life.
И когда ты это понимаешь,
And when you understand it,
то
you just know.
просто-напросто, знаешь, вот как
You just know how by some miraculous coincidence
все в твоей жизни
everything in your life changes. You know, it's like everything automatically rearranges itself, and all those elements which you didn't know where to fit before, how to arrange them, you know, like in some kind of constructor when you were poking one piece here and there, trying to, what am I supposed to be responsible for? What do you want me to do? Where I'm supposed to go? These, you know, these attempts of yours when you were temporarily going towards and then refusing again, that was thrust upon you. They just, well, in the most miraculous way, everything in your life comes into order, right? Why? Because God becomes first. God becomes paramount in your life. You go to Him. You do everything in your power. I repeat, everything in your power, in spite of circumstances, in spite of conditions, in order to come to God, in order to have this eternal life. And then everything becomes easy, everything becomes simple, life becomes joyful, colorful. As they say in psychology, it ceases to be gray and boring. You don't wander in these labyrinths, this way, that way. Did I make the right choice? Did I make the wrong choice? You, my friend, made the right choice the moment you made the decision to live. But as you correctly pointed out, in order to make the decision, you have to make up your mind. Who am I?
What does ordinary life
What does ordinary life mean? That's the expression I've always liked the most. Sometimes you ask, how are you? Well, just an ordinary life, I'm living as always. As always? What does that mean? In no way?
The ground day, like a squirrel in a
Of
wheel,
course.
is the
Do you know
same
how
as yesterday.
the human should live? He should live better and better every day and every moment. And there is no improvement every moment of your life, my friend. You are not living. You're just being exploited. Just like a slave, like a donkey, who, let's say, is overdriven with loads for the rest of its days. Is that really life? If you have no improvement and no
Dynamics of this inner growth, right?
Absolutely right. And by what it is measured, by happiness, by life, that is precisely by the purity of love, which you not only give, but also receive. I understand that many have problems and not everyone can even feel what love is, but one should strive for that. You see, there is no such thing that if person sets himself a real goal, he would not achieve it. There is no such thing anywhere, neither in sport, nor in life or business, unless an accident or some circumstances independent of him can interrupt it at all. But if a person sets himself a goal, he will surely achieve it.
С этим действительно очень важно определиться. Вот почему
It's really very important to understand why can't we really be responsible, as we said at the beginning. It's a constant effort, and everyone reminds you from childhood that this is important, but we resist it because we associate ourselves with the body. The body can't. It doesn't have that function. The body can be responsible. And thoughts that control people's behavior today, they push us to. To what? What do thoughts push us to? To shift responsibility. Just watch this. When you have to make a decision, when you have to take responsibility for something, what begins to sound in your head? First of all, pictures appear immediately. How much do I have to do? I just don't have time for anything. And this and that and that. And I'm so busy, right? A lot of self-doubt appears. Can I do that? Can't I do that? Doubts arise as to whether it's even worth doing. Observe the relief you feel when someone takes responsibility. The person says, okay, I'll take that job. All right, I'll be responsible for that. So Neither consciousness nor the body has this function. Yet personality, that is what every human being is, that very personality that has a connection with the soul, and thanks to this has access to the energy for the realization of any action, it has this function of responsibility because it is able, let's say, to finance any action, any decision made. If I don't have money, can I make a decision to buy something? Anything from a spoon to a house? No, I don't have money. I will run around looking for where I can get that money, who can I ask for, who I can borrow it from. It's the same with consciousness. It pushes a person, persuades them to accept some idea. It can entice a person with an idea, but it cannot take responsibility and make a decision. It has neither the functionality nor the capacity to do so. Yet personality, on the other hand, is that sponsor who can buy anything. It can make any decision and it can sponsor it. That's why personality has the responsibility to make decisions. And then, there is the understanding, as you say, that without God, it is really impossible to come to life. It is impossible to realize that main meaning, because actually to take responsibility for your life is to make spiritual development the main thing in your life. Without it, it's impossible to gain life. And spiritual development is impossible without constant connection to God. And it's actually not a fantasy. No, God is actually the reality that every person can and must experience. God is revealed in the silence. So in order to feel the connection with God, you need to come to this inner silence. Take your attention away from that humming, incessant stream of thoughts and direct your attention to your soul. In the energy structure of the human being, right here at the level of the solar plexus, is the soul, the open door to the world of God. And through this door, to each person there is a constant flow of energy, which can be called a feeling, of love. That flow of energy, which gives life to the person himself and gives energy to realize any action in this world. And it is through human attention that this energy is distributed. And this is the huge responsibility of personality. This needs to be understood. That's where this responsibility is. In this choice, what I pay attention to, I take responsibility for that. And so when we return our attention, most of it, to this stream of love, return it to God, a human being grows and becomes stronger as a spiritual being. There is a practice, an ancient spiritual practice, which is called lotus. It is described in the first book Sensei, the Primordial Shambhala by Anastasia Novik. Take and read it. Try to feel it, because we always talk about choice. There is a choice to either be on the side of God, on the side of good, right? Or to be on the side of evil, on the side of the devil. Really, you have to understand that there is black and white. In fact, all situations are very simple in their essence. All our doubts, am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? Do I need or not? And is it also or not? What decision should I make? We are constantly in this swamp. It's exhausting, but it's actually simple. There is only one decision we make all the time. Whose side am I on? Am I on the side of God, which means I'm on the side of good, on the side of higher wisdom and justice? Or am I on the side of the devil, which means I'm on the side of the evil? And this is determined by just one thing: where is my attention? If my attention is turned towards the soul, then I'm on the side of good. If my attention is turned to thoughts, pictures in my head, these endless doubts, reflections on who is right, who is wrong, me or not me, what I am or what is another, that's it. We fall into a trap. We are not in control of ourselves. We are being controlled by Satan. We are controlled by evil. And that's it. If we are on the side of God, we cannot, by definition, do anything wrong. And it's like you said, Sasha, the world is changing, perception is changing. You just have to get this experience. It's very important to get this experience. I remember very well when I had my first experience of such kind, when my son called, when some situation happened, and again I have thoughts in my head. How many times can I explain? Why doesn't he understand? How much more of this nonsense can I do? Right? Call him, tell him, prove it to him. And such irritation arises, such an unpleasant state, accusations against the person. But there was already an experience and understanding of how to escape that state. I wrote out my thoughts and saw all this anger, all this flow of negativity towards a loved one. And then just sit down, close your eyes, and take your attention away from that flow. Direct it gently and with gratitude to your soul, to that area of the solar plexus. Try to stay in this inner silence, in this inner peace. Feel another state. How do I calm myself? This way, very simple. Find that inner peace and silence within yourself, the real support within yourself. And you know what the best part is? I know that you know. When you come out of that state, it's impossible to be angry with anyone, impossible to hurt anyone. Your attitude really changes. Perception of everything changes. It feels as if the world is, and the understanding expands. You begin to look with different eyes at people, at yourself, at any situation. But this can only come when you have this experience. And so when that experience comes, a human begins to understand between what he makes a choice. What does the support of God mean? What connection with God gives? It really turns everything in your life, but for the better.
You know, sometimes it saddens me to realize that today's psychology has gone away from God. It has gone away from the soul, not just as understandings, but as the basis of human nature. If you go back to Zoroastrianism, if you go back to Islam, where it was clearly said who in this life is responsible for what, and the important point you have made is that the individual is responsible for the decisions he makes, and only the individual will be reaping the benefits of these decisions. And Zoroastrianism talks about this very well and gives a simple recipe on how a person can reach a paradise. I'm speaking now in a religious language. Maybe it is not close to everyone, not everyone is pleasant and understandable, but it is simple: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And in order to get to paradise, the so-called Chinwat bridge appears in front of a person. Its width will depend precisely on the extent to which his deeds, and deeds are the consequence of decisions, were good. Islam also says beautifully how consciousness works, and when a man stands before Allah, the Iblis will say, "I didn't do anything, I only whispered. It wasn't me, it was him." And this is a perfect example of what consciousness does with men. It nudges us, it may frighten us, it may seduce us, it may persuade us, but we make that decision. The personality makes that decision. A potentially spiritually alive being who could become an angel. And it is our choice to do one action or the other, or not to do one action or the other. In Christianity, it is also said in one way or another that demons whisper. Demons whisper to man. They push him to do something. But just the same Christianity also says, don't wish bad things in your thoughts, even in your thoughts, because it all goes to your benefit. Continuing on, here's a good one. We have taken, well, the ancient religion and the widespread, and to this day, guys, the judgment of Osiris in ancient Egypt, what does it say? Every person will come before the judgment, and he will be held accountable for his deeds. He will be held accountable for the decisions that he made, decisions to act or not to act. And yes, it is first of all important for each person to make a decision, whether or not you want to live. Do you want eternal life or not? Or is it enough for you just to prolong your body's existence here for some period of time? 70, 80, 90, 100, okay, years. No matter. But the time to grow up was yesterday. The time to make the most important decision was yesterday. And today you have to act. We must act, because the world is simply slipping out from under us. That's it. We have no time. We can no longer sit and wait for someone to decide something for us. These guys, it's over. This is the moment of truth. These are the last times spoken of. We are making the decision for our own future, and we are making the decision for the future of all humanity. There is no way to turn back.
We are ordinary people.
We are ordinary people. We are actually that stratum of the population, which has no rights today, nothing. We are just people. We have no access to mass media. We have no access to the United Nations or anywhere at all. You see, we only have the right to give our power to someone so that they can decide for us. That's all we have. And to remain slaves, cannon fodder, and whoever else, just little cogs in a big system that no one takes into account. Yet, if we take the little cogs out of the biggest system, it will cease to exist. And this shouldn't be forgotten either, friends, right? The world rests on us. Without us, there is nothing and nobody. And all people are absolutely the same, believe me. There are no people higher or lower. Well, anthropometrically there are, of course, but from the perspective of the spiritual world, I'll put it so, all people are equal. However, they are divided only into two groups. All people are equal before the devil or before God. And it is up to us to choose whose side we should be on, right? Therefore, we shouldn't put our trust in anyone, but ourselves and the Lord God. While those who live, let's say, in the service of that very shaitan, of course, they will be afraid.
But no matter what happens,
and no matter how events develop, I would like to say that even if we fail to build creative society, friends, if we fail because of such active young people of 70 plus and others who are inert, irresponsible, cowardly, hiding behind legal umbrellas and avoiding various problems.
it may happen.
It may happen, I don't argue.
But we,
But we, friends, You and us
disadvantage
have a tremendous advantage. Why?
because we have a lot
Because we have a Latra,
and we have no time
and
limit
we have no time limit
at all.
ahead at
And
all.
we will still be able to do a
And
lot
we
of
will
good things.
still be able to do a lot of good things, if not for this civilization, then for a huge number of other civilizations and countless number of people.
As for those,
As for those,
I'll put it simply,
I put it simply, who are not with God,
it is their decision.
it is their
and
decision and their
You and
world.
us are doing everything
You and
we
us
can
are doing everything we can in order to save this world, in order to save humanity, in order
to
to save even those
who do not want it,
who do not want it,
those cowardly.
those cowardly self-lovers.
Well,
Well,
this is our life.
this is
and we've
our
chosen
life,
it.
and we've chosen
We've
it.
chosen
We've chosen to serve people, we've chosen to serve the spiritual world, and it is our honor.
and we will carry it.
And we will carry it through this little world, no matter how much time we have left. But there is a chance to build a creative society and save humanity without any Rotary clubs, without any UN or anything else. After all, there will not be nothing like that in the creative society, believe me. There should be no one there to exploit other people. Everything will be fair and just the way the Lord God told us through His prophets.
Through His prophets.
It will be this way.
Самое главное решение
The most important decision a person can make
решение стать
is
человеком.
the decision to become a human.
А человек это тот,
And the human is the one
непрерывно
who is
связан
continually connected to God.
И самое дорогое,
And the most valuable thing that every human being has is life.
этот невероятный,
That incredible, unique chance to gain life.
это самое важное,
And if that is the most important thing for every human being,
то
then
самое
the
ответственное
most
действие
responsible action today for each of us
сделать все
is to do everything we can to protect life.
Знаешь,
You know,
ты говоришь, что
when you say that maybe it's weird that we are talking about God, strange to whom? To the 7 billion believers? To whom?
понимаешь?
You
Вот
see,
просто нужно наконец
we just have to finally understand that God is a reality that is with us every moment. It's that reality that saves us until the last moment and extends that helping hand.
пора просто эту
It's
руку
time to just accept that hand with gratitude and stop pushing it away and start acting, because a human is the one who acts. Love is the acting state. We are 8 billion, of which 7 billion are believers, and we have 2 billion children for whom we are responsible.
В этом же наша ответственность.
Is that where our responsibility is? We have accepted responsibility for the life of one more person besides our own. So let's finally realize that responsibility and prove to ourselves and to God that we are humans. We are able to be humans, because a human being is the one who aspires to live.
В этом главная
This
ответственность.
is the main responsibility of any human being.
Diana, thank you so much. I don't know. I'm glad we have talked about it.
Несмотря на то, что
Even though the information really it's not the most pleasant. And yes, of course, I want to talk more about more joyful things, right?
более радостных вещах,
I want to devote more time in our conversations
истинному
to
самопознанию,
true self-discovery. I want to devote more time in our conversations to how wonderful it is to live,
жить, зная,
knowing, truly knowing who you are and knowing how it is to live with God and live according to God's laws.
Сейчас такое время,
But this is a time
когда
when all of us, all people, have
Я
been,
считаю, что это честь.
I think, privileged, and I believe it is an honor. It is indeed an honor for all previous generations to show and prove that we are worthy.
Мы достойны
We
звания
are worthy of the title of man,
того,
and we are worthy for this world
он
to continue,
чтобы люди
for people
продолжили
to continue
радовать
to please God. Friends, there is no matter how difficult it is now, but together we will make it work. So, as they say, let's close ranks and move
уверенным,
confidently,
смелым
boldly,
и быстрым шагом
and swiftly toward a creative society.
обществу. Спасибо вам.
Thank
Всего
you,
доброго.
and have a good day.
I'll put it as follows. Whatever difficulties you have, whatever sorrow seizes you, do not give up. After all, everything that happens in this life actually happens in our consciousness. This is indeed so. And most of the troubles in this life are ordered and paid for by ourselves. Moreover, we sometimes prepay in order to face misfortune today. This is the bitter truth of life, but that's the way it is. We already talked about it. But I'll put it this way. Even if the biggest trouble befalls you, do not give way to despair. Everything passes. And this will pass too. Do you know what does not pass? That which gives life eternal, God's love. If you let it come to you, if you deserve it, you will be in it forever. That's true. What can be better? Suffering, pain, or love? And joy within you, which ignites inside you like a little fire and embraces everything. Your whole world, your inner world. Then, no matter what happens around you, and no matter what shaitan tries to tell you in your head, is no longer your problem. Everything earthly disappears when divine love manifests itself in a human. And it depends on a human whether to accept it or listen to shaitan and move away. However, tell me, what kind of a fool should a person be in order not to accept it? Would a sane person refuse it? Everything is simple. And only the one who has knowingly buried himself alive cannot see, feel and understand. But that's his choice. You see how great God's mercy is. A human receives according to his choice.
Thank you for this, God's mercy, Igor Mikhailovich. Thank you for this inner miracle, the main thing that is invisible to the human eye.
Thank you too. Thank you, friends. So let's just love each other and love our Lord God. And most importantly, let's stop serving Satan. Let us choose life. It is worth it.